Hi, welcome as we enter into our last project for our distant learning sewing class here at Fremont Christian School. We are going to be making pajama shorts. The supplies that you need for this first step are a good pair of scissors, a tape measure if you have one, if not, any ruler, a yardstick would be great, or a ruler will do, and then your sewing pins, and the fabric that you were given, and the pattern pieces that you were given. You should have 3 pattern pieces, a front, a back, and a pocket. Would you please check and make sure that these 2 pieces are in the same size and that they're in the size that you think you will wear according to the back of the pattern envelope, which I've attached to your lesson. If you are doing the shorts, that is view C. If you're doing the pants, that is view D. So I've selected my fabric for this project, and of course I've selected the cats. So first thing I want to do is to make sure that my fabric came from the fabric store and it is on the straight of the grain. And we've watched a lot of videos and talked a lot about that. So I'm going to make a small cut through the selvage. And your heavier flannels won't rip, but mine is kind of lightweight. So as I rip, now I did this once before just to test my fabric to see if it would rip. So mine was on the straight of the grain. But you should have seen the first time I ripped it, my piece was not even at all. So I really did even it out. So I know that this top thread is very straight. So I want to bring those edges together and line them up and get them straight. Now I want to get my selvage edges straight. And I have a long piece of fabric here. I will not need all of this for the shorts. I'm going to lay it out on my cutting table, flat. I would suggest you please move to ask mom's permission, but I think you ought to move to your kitchen table. Some of you may need to press your fabric before you start. I pressed it a few days ago, but I see I have a pretty major wrinkle. I'm going to try to flatten it out with my hands. My selvages are even. The top is even. Just going to work it with my hands, make sure I get it really flat. Now, if you'll notice, my cat fabric is directional. You are seeing my cats upside down. So I want to make sure that my pattern pieces are going to lay with the top up here and the bottom down here, so that when I wear these shorts, the cats are not standing on their heads, but they are looking right side up. So here I go. I will start with one of my pieces. I'll start here with the back. I'm going to put the back over here as well as I can and hope that I can leave room to get a pocket piece out of this spot over here. Now, I'm just going to tell you that because in your sizes, smaller sizes, you probably can do that. I'm not going to be able to, but that might be a place where you could put your pocket piece. Now, the pocket pieces are all the same size regardless of what size pattern you're making. I want to lay my pattern piece on the straight of the grain. I'm going to put one pin at the top of the grain line. I'm going to measure that. I can either, if I'm on this side of the table, I can measure from here to the selvage, or since my fabric is straight, I can measure from the grain line over to the edge. Mine happens to be 11 3/8. So I'm going to want to come down to this edge of the grain line, and now it's only 10 7/8, so my pattern is not on here straight. I'm going to let it turn a little bit. I may have to actually just move mine over. That is too much. I'm going to run off the edge. So I'm just going to put the pin here and measure again. That is 11 6/8. And this is 11. This is 12. So I will come this way just a little bit. And now I have 11 6/8. So my piece is on my fabric straight. Now I have washed all of your fabric with the exception of the new piece that came in yesterday. Some of you have this and it's brand new. You can tell because I have not zigzagged the edges, this piece I have. If you get one of the new pieces of this flannel, you need to wash and dry it really well before you start your project. But mine has been washed and dried, so I've already accounted for the shrinkage. Otherwise, flannel really does shrink, and if you do not wash and dry it, you'll make your shorts, wear them once, and then put them in the washer and dryer, and they might be too small. So I'm going to finish pinning around my pattern here because I have it on the straight of the grain. I don't want it to slide now. I gave you more pins, so you should have enough. But make sure that you pin down edges like that. The more accurate your cut, the more accurate your sewing, and the better your project will turn out. So it starts with laying it on the straight of the grain, and it continues by an accurate, clean cut. So now I am ready for the next piece, the front piece of my pajamas. Now, straighten out my fabric, check to make sure that my selvages, they're still coming together nicely. I'm going to press my fabric nice and flat. When I washed your flannel the first time, I made sure that I used fabric softener. I don't know whether your mom normally does fabric softener. I don't always. But this is just a medium grade flannel. It's not a really expensive flannel, and so fabric softener helps it turn out nicer and stay nicer. Otherwise, it'll start to ball up and look very worn very soon. So I do like fabric softener when washing flannels. Okay, so I turn this over. I'm going to put this one pretty close to the selvage again because in your case, since your sizes are smaller than mine, you might be able to get your pocket another 2 pockets out here, because remember the pocket says cut 4, so you might be able to get out 2 here and 2 here. I'm not going to be able to, and I have plenty of fabric, so I'm going to do it down here, okay, and get out my 4 pockets down here. So again, I'm going to put a pin in the top of my grain line using my measuring tape. I'm going to measure Again, I could measure to the edge of the selvage. I just happen to have my fold here. I'm at 9 1/4, so I'm going to come over here, and I'm at 9 1/4. I got lucky this time, got it right the first time. So I'm going to put another pin there in the grain line, and then continue to pin around here, around the edges. Now I'm pinning parallel to the edges so that I do not have to unpin while I'm cutting. I can just make clean cuts without having to remove pins. Again, always make sure that your pattern piece is flat. Run your hand over it. If you're using a commercial pattern like you usually will, the pattern pieces won't lay as nice as this pattern fabric lays. And so what I like to do is cut out my pattern pieces and then iron them flat so that I am working with flat, smooth, not wrinkled pattern pieces that they'll lay flat on your fabric. Okay, now I'm ready to pin my pockets. I'm going to pin one, and then I will cut out another one later. 5 1/2. 5 1/2. Moved it a little. 5 1/2. Now you don't need to watch me cut all these pattern pieces out on the movie, but I will cut out the top one just to show you how important it is to use a good pair of shears, fabric scissors. That's why we use the little ones to cut the thread. Thread and paper really do dull a pair of sewing scissors, so we like to keep our sewing scissors as sharp as possible. I have a pair here. Let's see. These aren't the best. Much nicer, I can tell by the way they cut. I'm going to cut as close to the fabric as I can. I think that lady said she liked to cut on the video. That was interesting. I'd never heard that before. I can't even remember what she said. I think she said left to right. But now that I just have a small piece, if I want to, because I can't move around my table, it's too close to the wall. I can flip my fabric over. I'm going to continue to cut. Whoops, got off the edge there a bit. Come back. Slow down. Okay. Normally when sewing, our seam allowances are 5/8 of an inch. But here, in this pattern, our sewing allowance is only going to be 1/4 of an inch. Again, if your dad has some painter's tape, it might be nice to put a piece of painter's tape down on the 1/4 inch line on your sewing machine. If not, you'll just have to keep your eye on that 1/4 inch. But the 1/4 inch is really important as I approach this notch. This is my pattern back, and right here I have a notch. Now I know it's there. I'm not going to cut around it. I'm going to do the way they've been showing us in the video. I'm just going to take a slash in. But when I trace this pattern, or Mrs. Ariona's traced it, we might have traced that line there larger than 1/4 of an inch. So just make a small little slit there. Don't go beyond the 1/4 of an inch because we don't want to have a hole in your shorts there. But we do need to mark that. That's going to be an important place where we match our pieces together. That's what the notches are for. And one last one. This is the back. Okay, and I'll cut the side seam. On my piece, I'm cutting the folded edge off. Okay, and I have cut all the way around the edge. Okay, pretty smooth cuts. The longer this you can make your strokes with your scissors or your shears, the better. Some people cut like this. I've seen beginners use their shears like this, little tiny cuts. And it tends to not be as smooth or as straight. So once I get on a really straight piece, I can cut a nice long piece in one cut, much straighter and smoother. Okay, I will see you in the next video. Whoops, stepped the wrong way. I will see you in the next video as we continue with our shorts project.